Hi guys, is Lee Anderson the dumbest politician in the House of Commons? The competition for such a position is pretty strong, but I had to respond to this piece he had on his GB News show. So in his Left in the Corner segment, he had Andy 12s, a trade unionist, on to discuss net zero. Now it must be remembered that both Reform UK and GB News are backed by individuals with connections to the fossil fuel industry. DSMOG reported this year that Paul Marshall, the owner of GB News, had £1.8 billion invested in oil and gas companies like Shell and Chevron. So with that in mind, have a listen to what Lee Anderson had to say about net zero.
Best way to support people is to make sure that they have a job to go to. And of course, let's not forget, we just had COP29 and $300 billion worth of what? Giving away from the Western world to people and places which have no other interest other than take our money. But let's be honest, we got the Secretary of State called Ed Miliband for what, energy and climate change, I think it is. It's more like net stupid because...
Net stupid, I'm writing that down. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, look, we've got the Global South who are, half of them are laughing at us for being, led by idiots here who are giving away our money for what? Yeah. For the highest cost of electricity anywhere in the world. That's not conducive to industry. The other half of laughing at us, well, quite bewildered as to, well, what actual policies has this government and the UK now got to not be following someone like President Trump and onshoring industry again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at our trade unionists, our Left in the Corner man. He's looking bewildered, confused. He's got to think of something now to actually defend this. Andy, over to you.
I mean, of course, I as a trade unionist, I agree with onshoring. You know, you can't have unionised jobs if you don't have jobs. But, you know, you talk about kind of, is it destroying industry? Most of British industry was destroyed throughout the 80s and 90s. You look across the Midlands and in the north, you know, towns like Oursley, you know, these post-industrial towns, they don't have industry.
Andy. We're here for the present day.
But they don't.
Stop talking about the past. Stop talking about how I, as a conservative, you know, and my party ran industry into the ground. You know, it was Thatcher, somebody that Lee Anderson admires, closed down the mines. You know, you can't ignore the past. The past has a massive impact on the present. So if there was a policy to deindustrialize Britain in the 1980s and 1990s, you can't turn around now and say, well, let's stop talking about the past and let's focus on the present. Well, let's focus on the present. But the present means that there's no industry in Britain. You can't ignore what happened in the past if that past involved deindustrialization. This is ridiculous. Lee Anderson claims that he worked down the mines and that his family worked down the mines, then surely he, better than anyone else, should understand what happened during the 1980s. The deindustrialization of Britain in the 1980s. It's ridiculous.
They don't have industry. We need to reindustrialise with the opportunities that net zero will provide. Whether it's green data centres, you know, whether it's solar panel creation, you know, whether it's any of the kind of joint industry that net zero brings, that's where we should be investing in. That is what will invest in our industry to reindustrialise the Midlands and the North.
He believes what he's saying about it.
If you don't have industry that you can go back to, then you have to look forward. Like Lee Anderson, if he was around 100 years ago, would be saying, well, we shouldn't really be moving towards these things called automobiles. We should stick with horses and carts. Horses and carts work. Let's reinvest in horses and carts and not move. The rest of the world is heading in the direction of automobiles, but for us, it's pie in the sky. It's never going to work. Let's not go down that road. Britain needs industry. And you can't go backwards. You can't reopen the mines. You can't reopen coal-fired power stations. You need to go in the direction of green energy, green jobs, renewables. Those are the jobs of the future. They're the jobs of the present. And it will bring down energy prices. Because if you're producing the energy yourself and not selling it on the international market, then you can control the price. See, a big problem with oil and gas extraction and the sale of it is it goes on to the international market and then Britain buys it on the international market and it has no control over the price of that. So when Lee Anderson and the right wing say, well, what we need to do is frack more and we need to extract more oil and gas, if that is sold on the international market, then you're going to pay the international price. So wouldn't it make more sense to move away from that, to move towards renewables? But once again, I keep coming back to the main point. The main point is those who back Lee Anderson, Reform UK and GB News, it seems, are not interested in investing in renewables. They're invested instead in fossil fuels. So they want to promote the idea that we need to go backwards, not forwards. We need to avoid talking about net zero. We need to ridicule it and say, no, we need to reopen coal-fired power stations, or we need to reopen the mines. That's the way forward. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.